in a coastal town in northeastern Brazil called Dark Tide, where the Atlantic Ocean crashed against the ancient cliffs with an eternal roar, stood an abandoned library known as the Forgotten Archive, built in the 18th century by Portuguese colonizers who had brought hidden secrets from Europe. The library was a labyrinth of dusty shelves, filled with forbidden tomes and cursed manuscripts. Local legends spoke of one book in particular, bound in human leather and written in red ink that looked like dried blood. Its title, etched in Gothic letters, was Silent Invocations. The curse was simple and terrifying. Do not read it aloud. Whoever did would awaken entities from the depths, forces that fed on spoken words, transforming them into portals to hell. Our story begins with Lucas, a 25-year-old literature student at the Federal University of Bahia, spending his vacation in Dark Tide to visit his sick grandmother. Lucas was an avid reader, obsessed with ancient stories and folkloric myths, yet extremely rational, always attributing the supernatural to exaggerated tales. He discovered the abandoned library while exploring the town, drawn by online rumors. In mystery forums, it's just an old building, perfect for photos and inspiration from my thesis, he thought as he forced open the rusted door, carrying a flashlight and a backpack full of notebooks. The air inside was heavy, saturated with the smell of moldy paper and something else, a metallic odor like rusted iron. Lucas didn't know that Silent Invocations was no legend. Centuries ago, the Jesuit priest, driven insane by visions, had written it as a grimoire of inverted exorcisms summoning demons instead of banishing them. Those who read it silently survived. But anyone who dared to speak the words aloud tore the veil between worlds. The library had been sealed after a series of disappearances in the 19th century, but time had eroded its barriers with his insatiable curiosity. Lucas ignored the warnings scrawled on the walls. Do not read aloud. Night was falling over Dark Tide. The sound of waves echoing like distant whispers, and suspense began to build step by step. Word by word. He entered at sunset, the fading light casting reddish stones inside through the broken windows. Shelves stretched out like endless corridors, books scattered on the floor like lifeless bodies. He switched on his flashlight, the beam sweeping over titles in Latin and archaic Portuguese. What a hidden treasure, he murmured, picking up a random volume. Yet something drew him deeper toward a locked room sealed with rusty chains, which he broke easily with an iron bar he found on the floor. Inside, in the center of a rotting oak table, lay the book, Silent Invocations. He read silently, shivering. For no reason, the pages were thick and uneven, and as he leafed through them, he saw grotesque illustrations, humanoid figures with multiple eyes, sewn mouths, and symbols that seemed to shift under the flashlight's beam. Impressive medieval art, he thought, settling into a creaky chair. He began reading silently, fascinated by the tales of invocations promising forbidden knowledge. By 8 p.m. With total darkness outside and only the sound of the sea in the distance, Lucas felt a presence, a subtle whisper, like wind rustling the pages, but forming words. Read aloud. He shook his head, blaming exhaustion. I'm alone here, he told himself. But the tension grew. Then a phrase caught his eye. He who verbalizes awakens the devourer of voices. Curious, he murmured softly. Devourer of voices. Instantly, the flashlight flickered, and a strange echo reverberated through the room, as if his voice were repeated by 1,000 invisible mouths. Startled, Lucas shut the book and bolted from the library, his heart racing. Back at his grandmother's modest seaside home, he tried to forget, but that night, nightmares plagued him, visions of shadows swallowing words, of mouths opening in the air to suck in sounds. He woke screaming, drenched in sweat, and heard a faint echo his own voice, repeating, "Devourer voices." The next day, Lucas returned to the library. Determined to prove it was his imagination, he found a book in the same spot. But now the pages seemed alive, the illustrations blinking like eyes. Reading silently, he uncovered the story of Father Antonio, the Jesuit who had gone mad after reading the book aloud during a ritual. His words were devoured, and with them, his soul. The text read. Lucas laughed nervously, but a seed of doubt had been planted. Days passed, and Lucas became obsessed. He smuggled the book home, hiding it from his grandmother, who warned him about local legends. Don't mess with the forgotten archive. Boy, bad things happen there, she told him, eyes full of fear. He ignored her, reading at night under the weak light of a desk lamp. By the third night, the whispers were real low, unintelligible voices echoing from the corners of his room. Read, louder. He tried recording them on his phone, but the audio captured only static, interrupted by fragments of his own voice. Auditory hallucinations, just vacation stress, he rationalized. Yet the tension mounted. Objects moved on their own. Books toppled from shelves, and shadows stretched along the walls, forming gaping mouths. One night, while reading an invocation silently, he felt an invisible hand on his shoulder, spinning around nothing. But the book now lay open to a new page, with words he didn't remember. "You've already begun. Finish aloud." Lucas invited his friend Clara, a psychology student from his university, to stay with him. "We'll debunk this, it's just folklore," he insisted. Clara arrived with equipment, recorders, night vision cameras. They set up surveillance in the bedroom, the book placed in the center. "If it's psychological, we'll prove it," she joked. But that night, the whispers intensified. "Read. Don't stop." Now crystal clear. The camera captured anomalous shadows shifting across the pages as if the words themselves danced. Clara felt something brush against her leg, cold as seawater. "Lucas, this isn't normal," she whispered, pale, stubborn. He picked up the book and read a phrase softly. I summoned the broken silence. The room went black. Bulbs bursting. A roar like crashing waves filling the air. Things escalated quickly. Lucas learned that the Devourer voices was an ancient entity, a demon that fed on spoken sounds, using them to manifest. Each spoken word is a portal. Father Antonio had written. Lucas and Clara searched the internet, finding forums with similar accounts, people reading grimoires and vanishing, their voices echoing forever. One night, the whispers turned into familiar voices, Lucas's late grandmother, pleading, "Don't read." They locked the book in a chest, but it reappeared on the table, opened to the next page. Bite marks appeared on the walls, as if something were gnawing the air. Clara saw a figure in the mirror shadow with an endless mouth, swallowing unspoken words. The tension reached its peak when Lucas, in a moment of weakness, read an entire paragraph aloud during an argument. By the power of spoken words, I summoned the Devourer. The air vibrated, and portals burst open, ethereal mouths on the ceiling, floor, walls devouring all sound. The ocean outside roared louder, as if the sea itself responded. Clara screamed, but her voice was sucked away, echoing distortedly, desperate. Lucas and Clara prepared a reverse ritual from the book, reading the invocations backwards, in complete silence. But the Devourer manifested, a black form made of shadows and mouths, climbing the walls. "Speak. Feed me." It roared. In the climax, Lucas read the final invocation aloud, but reversed, banishing the entity. The mouth sealed shut. The whisper ceased. The price was steep. Clara lost her voice, now only carried by the wind. Lucas burned the book, but on silent nights in dark tide, whispers still echo. Do not read aloud. The cycle waits for its next reader.